All right, and then the third image that we've got this week, also from Empire Magazine, a little bit of a stare down between a couple of Inquisitors. The fifth brother and the third sister staring each other down. Looks like the fifth brother is arguing something, and the third sister doesn't exactly agree. But yeah, it's sort of wild to see It's sort of wild to see the fifth brother in live action. We've talked a lot. A lot has been made about the the Grand Inquisitor. It's just as sort of uncanny valley strange to see this dude, the fifth brother in there as well.
Yeah.
And especially a shot like this where you can actually see his costume, and it's like, oh yeah, wow, that's what he wore in Rebels. That's what he looked like.
It is crazy like that because it still feels like it's like he was like an antagonist in a whole season of Rebels. Like that's not obscure by any means, but it feels obscure to me. And the fact that they could have, props to them. They could have just come up with their own Inquisitors. We know there's a ton of Inquisitors out there from the comics or whatever else, and there's some new ones in this show. But they specifically went with some that were known, which I think is really cool. And we know they're gonna survive this, and all this stuff. But adds a little more continuity and just a really cool use of characters here.
Yeah, I like the way they handled the Inquisitors in this. Like, it's sort of like, well, they wanted to create their own. Sorry, there was just things nearly just went very badly in the hockey game, but they didn't. They didn't. It's okay, still okay. It tied at 3-3. But
if any point he starts like screaming or crying, sounds like he's having a stroke, just know he's okay. He's okay.
Yeah. But the point I was making is, they obviously they want to create some of their own characters for this show, so that's what they do with their sort of main Inquisitor, with Moses Ingram's character, the third sister. But if you need an Inquisitor that's kind of an authority figure, all right, you have one that exists already. Why not use the Grand Inquisitor? So they did. They brought in the Grand Inquisitor, and then you need some other Inquisitors to fill out the rest of the roster. Well, yeah, create some more. Let the art department just have fun with it. And then, but also, there's some that already exists, and it would be a nice little nod to the fans that know that they exist to incorporate them. The fifth brother is kind of a good character to do that with, because he, even though, like you said, Ben, it was one of the main antagonists for a season of Rebels. He's still kind of a blank slate. We didn't learn a ton about him in that season, which is a fair criticism of season 2 of Rebels, I think. But so you can bring him in without having to worry about there being a ton of baggage with people need to know this about him or need to know that about him. He's a new character if you've never seen him before, but he's a familiar face if you have, and that's a good balance that they should aim to strike when they can.
And looking at it from the perspective of like we're seeing all these Inquisitors, I think fifth brother and the Grand Inquisitor, we know they're true believers. We know their fates. We know that they're not going to turn. I think the whole thing with Reva, the fact that we know her name is Reva, is something very, very interesting. The fact that she has a designation as an Inquisitor, but also she has a real name. I think that's going to speak to her past, probably as a Jedi. Maybe Obi-Wan knows her, and maybe even tries to get through to her, similarly to what we think might happen with Anakin. Just that whole thing I think is very interesting. Something I never really got a chance to talk about last week with the trailer, but like there's something really interesting going on, and Moses Ingram, rightfully so, is front and center with all the press and stuff like that's been happening this week, and I think she's going to be a lot larger player than we are anticipating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think who knows at what point Vader will appear in the series. I suspect it's not going to be in episode 1. And Vader may not become a major factor in the series until the back half, or it's only 6 episodes, so episode 3 or beyond. And so you need someone to be a credible threat through the first part of the episode that could, lure Obi-Wan out, and then put him into a place where he needs to fight. He needs to fight Vader. And so I feel like Reva, the third sister, I feel like she's got to be a strong, intimidating villain to fulfill that role, and might wind up having to, carry the dark side, so to speak, through the first couple of episodes until it's time to, hand that baton or hand that lightsaber off to the big guy, the big scary guy with his heavy breathing and his scary mask and all that stuff.
Definitely. He shows up in the last 5 minutes.
Wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be something?